Dr. Ben Carson spoke at the RNC last night, and I have not been a Ben Carson fan for quite a while. Not that he was a Democrat that became Republican. I don't really give a shit about party affiliation. I really care about someone's rhetoric and the agenda they push. Case in point, I have a bit of an affinity for Rand Paul. Now, maybe you want to call him a libertarian, but he's in the Republican Party. I'm not all that hot about Paul Ryan, but honestly, I can sit and listen to him. All right, I can shoot holes in some of the things he says, but some of the things he says, are legitimate, and I can go along with him. He could be considered quasi-reasonable, except in his ideas about the budget and where money should go and where it shouldn't. Okay, but that's neither here nor there. Ben Carson ticks me off. Number one, because when he was invited to a meal, let's call it a meeting, with President Obama, he was totally disrespectful to the president during that meeting. And from that point forward, I started taking a really close look at this guy. Now, I want to be honest with you. I think Ben Carson has a screw loose somewhere. Nothing radical as far as he's 5150, but he doesn't make sense, and he doesn't make good decisions. And honestly, if he had made some good decisions, he might have been in the race for the nomination a lot longer, but he decided to go along with Armstrong Williams against legitimate campaign people that knew exactly what they were doing. But rather than do that, he allowed Armstrong Williams to have a major say in what was going on with his campaign. So obviously that didn't work, and he dropped out. But then for him to join Donald Trump, to me, was an affront to his manhood, based on all of the various attacks that Trump made against him. I mean, basically, Trump damn near called him a pedophile, and Trump basically said that he was unhinged. And something, Trump might have been right, because he might have been unhinged, but better people than him have refused to back Donald Trump, i.e. the Bushes, which I think that they're rational, quasi-reasonable. But you've had these other people like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and Chris Christie that have sold their soul to Trump. So, that's neither here nor there. But in this speech last night, I couldn't get with this speech. I really couldn't get with him. But, that's fine as far as his talking points. But in my opinion, he crossed the line when he brought Clinton's religion into the mix. Now, I'm going to play his entire speech, and then I'm going to give my commentary regarding his bringing in of Lucifer into the conversation. And for those of you who aren't aware of it, please find Lucifer in the Bible. Now, you can find Satan in the Bible, but you darn sure can't find Lucifer. So do your own research on where the tie-in to Satan and Lucifer occurred. I looked it up, so I know, but do your own research, and you should be able to find how Lucifer became synonymous with Satan and the devil. But here we go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Don't eat up my time. Thank you. I want to thank you all for that very warm welcome. I have to start out by saying one very important thing. I'm not politically correct. And I hate political correctness because it's antithetical to the founding principles of this country, and the secular progressives use it to make people sit down and shut up while they change everything. It's time for us to stand up and shout out about what we believe in. You know, I devoted my career to studying and operating on the human brain. This remarkable organ defines our humanity. It gives us the ability to not only feel and observe, but to reason. When we elect a president, we need to use that power of reasoning to look at their history, their character, what kind of people they really are. It makes all the difference in the world for us. And it is going to be so critical right now. We must resist the temptation to take the easy way out and to passively accept what is fed to us by the politically elite and the media.
All right, when he talks about looking at a person's history, well, apparently he hadn't looked at Donald Trump's history, or he looked at a whitewashed version, because Donald Trump's history is wanting, to say the least, especially given this past year, because it's obvious to everyone that Donald Trump, if not a racist, has racist tendencies. For him to disparage Mexican people that come across the border, for him to disparage Muslims, for him to disparage African Americans, for him to disparage women, for him to disparage handicapped people, for him to disparage military veterans that were captured during Vietnam. I'm talking about John McCain. Ben, you said it yourself. Look at the history of a person, and that is Donald Trump's history. So you're being disingenuous.
Because they don't know what they're talking about, but they have an agenda. Now, we must also be wary of the narrative that's being advanced by some in our own party. The notion that a Hillary Clinton administration wouldn't be that bad, the effects would only be temporary. You know, that it would only last for 4 and at most 8 years. They're not using their God-given brain to think about what they're saying, because it won't be 4 or 8 years, because she will be appointing people who will have an effect on us for generations, and America may never recover from that. That's what we have to be thinking about. You know, interestingly enough, we have to start thinking about what would Hillary Clinton do if she was in fact the president. She would appoint Supreme Court justices, she would appoint federal judges, and that would have a deleterious effect on what happens for generations to come. Not only that, but she would continue with a system that denigrates the education of our young people, puts them in a place where they're never going to be able to get a job, where they're always going to be dependent, and where they can therefore be cultivated for their votes. This is not what America is all about, this kind of deception. And
Oh, so you mean that the Republicans aren't going to be trying to do the same thing and cultivate young people for their votes? That's not what the Republicans are going to do. Only the Democrats would be in a position to do that. And again, I'm not calling this either way because both parties are guilty of mass fraud and deception. All right. But you will act like it's only the Democrats that do this, and that's a bunch of crap. And your statement that they would get an education and but not be able to work, that's kind of stupid too.
This is what we, the people, have the necessary obligation to fight. Now, one of the things that I have learned about Hillary Clinton is that one of her heroes, her mentors, was Saul Alinsky. And her senior thesis was about Saul Alinsky. This was someone that she greatly admired and that affected all of her philosophies subsequently. Now, interestingly enough, let me tell you something about Saul Alinsky. He wrote a book called Rules for Radicals. On the dedication page, it acknowledges Lucifer, the original radical who gained his own kingdom. Now think about that. This is a nation where our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, talks about certain inalienable rights that come from our Creator. This is a nation where...
Let me stop him right there. See, and that's where you get people that want to give you a piece of the truth and not all of the truth. All right. He mentioned Saul Alinsky's basic, you call it a dedication, but actually it was an acknowledgement in his book, Rules for Radicals. The specific acknowledgement that he is referring to is as follows. Lest we forget at least an over-the-shoulder acknowledgement to the very first radical. From all our legends, mythology, and history, and who is to know where mythology leaves off and history begins, or which is which, the first radical known to man who rebelled against the establishment and did it so effectively that he at least won his own kingdom was Lucifer. That is the actual word for word forward that Mr. Alinsky placed in his book, Rules for Radicals. Now, Mr. Carson basically says that we shouldn't acknowledge Lucifer. Well, hell, God knows about quote-unquote Lucifer, and I'm going to say Lucifer even though he should have said Satan, because Lucifer is not in the Bible. But God acknowledges Lucifer because God created Lucifer. Lucifer acknowledges God because he knows, who God is. So if you want to fail to acknowledge that the devil exists, something's got to be wrong with you, because God acknowledges that the devil exists. And this is for people who are religious, okay? If you're not religious, this piece is not for you. But let me tell you who Saul Alinsky was. Okay, but before I say that Rules for Radicals, that particular book was given to the Freedom Works leadership, which is a Tea Party group that is run by former GOP House Majority Leader Dick Armey. So if that book was good enough for the Tea Party, okay, for Republicans, then what's the problem? See, that's, trying to have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't work that way. But, okay, anyway. Saul Alinsky was a pioneer in community organizing in Chicago. And he was known for being an extremely confrontational person, but he was confrontational using nonviolent tactics in affecting social change, okay? his methods have been used by liberals and Tea Party conservatives alike, both sides, although he was personally a liberal Democrat, okay? He wrote that organizers who are really dedicated to changing lives in a community must first rub raw the resentment of the people of the community, fan the latent hostilities of many other people to the point of overt expression, i.e. action. Okay, he urged people and pushed people to action. Mr. Olinsky urged organizers to search out controversy because without controversy, people don't care enough to act. Okay, so that was his philosophy. Ben Carson was right that Clinton did write her college thesis about Olinsky, okay, but her thesis at times was critical of Mr. Olinsky's tactics. Mr. Olinsky was known for fighting for improved city services for poor residents of Chicago on the South Side, black people, okay? He also worked to improve conditions in the city's meat processing plants. Carson wouldn't tell people that. One of the things that Mr. Olinsky would do is he would find out who owned slum buildings or housing on the south side of Chicago. He would find out who owned the building, he would find out where they lived, and for the most part they lived in well-to-do Chicago suburbs. He would take a group of people out to those suburbs and knock on the doors of neighbors and ask them to speak with the owner of the slum housing and ask that owner to fix up his property, okay? And the slum housing owner would be so embarrassed. That's exactly what happened in a lot of the cases. So that was an effective tactic. No violence involved, basically just embarrassing the owner of the property. What is wrong with that? Okay. Now the conservative right uses that same tactic when they deal with abortionists, or doctors that perform abortions. What they do is they find out where the doctor or the support staff live, then they go and talk to their neighbors and tell their neighbors or ask their neighbors to talk to the doctor or the support staff and tell them that they need to stop performing those services. That's what the right does. I mean, it's ridiculous as far as the logic that this guy uses, where on one side of the coin it's so bad, but on the other side of the coin it's fine. All of that comes from a person's individual point of view. So I hope that a little bit of information gives you a little insight on Dr. Ben Carson, and I still have a few bones to pick with him at the end of this.
Our Pledge of Allegiance says we are one nation under God. This is a nation. This is a nation where every coin in our pocket and every bill in our wallet says, "In God we trust." So are we willing to elect someone as president who has as their role model somebody who acknowledges Lucifer? Think about that.
See, and he's pushing a hot button. I'm a Christian and I acknowledge Lucifer, and to be honest with you, he scares me to death, and the only thing that gives me any solace is God is my shield. He is my rock. So I know that God will fight my battle for me, because I by myself can't win against Lucifer. But they constantly harp on failure to acknowledge when they deal with President Obama and saying radical jihadist extremist, okay, or radical Islamist extremist. They're constantly harping on Obama about calling something for what it is. Well, hell, what he is, you're the pot calling the kettle black. So Ben, no, you fucked up on that one. And then again, my problem is with you bringing religion into this thing and then not really giving the whole story.
Secular progressive agenda is antithetical to the principles of the founding of this nation. And if we continue to allow them to take God out of our lives, God will remove himself from us. We will not be blessed, and our nation will go down the tubes. And we will be responsible for that. We don't want that to happen. Now,
nobody can take God out of your life. God is a personal choice, and your relationship is between you and him. So nobody can take God out of your life if you don't want God taken out of your life. So for you to say that someone else can do that, that's a bunch of crap. That is a bunch of crap. Now, if you're referring back to our Constitution, there's a little thing called the separation of church and state, and it's in there for a reason. Okay? Basically, what you are trying to propose is a stronger influence of religion within the state. That sounds like Sharia law to me. So Ben, you're full of shit.
Donald Trump, he understands this very well. He understands that the blessings of this nation come with the responsibility to ensure that they are available to all, not just the privileged few. This is exemplified by his willingness to take on the establishment against all odds. It is evident in his passion for the American worker. It is found in his desire to put his considerable skills to work on behalf of American interests, not his self-interest. I'm proud to support Donald Trump, an extraordinary businessman, the right leader for a time such as this. But
Donald Trump is a turd. He exploited, and continues to exploit everybody within his sphere. He exploits workers. He exploited contractors. He exploited everybody. He even exploited the bankruptcy laws, all for his own individual benefit. So I don't see how you can even say that. And to be proud to support this guy, please.
But you know what? It is not about Donald Trump. It is not about me. It is about we, the people. And Thomas Jefferson said that we would reach this point because we, the people, would not be paying attention, and it would allow the government to grow, to expand, and to metastasize, and to try to rule us. But he said, before we turn into something else, we, the people, would recognize what was going on, what we were about to lose, and we would rise up and we would take control of our nation. And I say now is the time for us to rise up and take America back.
Well, Dr. Ben, unfortunately, I can't take America back because I never had America, and a lot of people should be in a position to say that same thing. You guys sprout your own rhetoric, and it's a bunch of bullshit, and you expect us to swallow. Well, all of us are not going to swallow it. And you in particular, your individual rhetoric, it just irks me. Your lack of respect for yourself, prostituting yourself, whoring yourself, because prostitutes get paid, and I'm not really sure where you're going to end up after all of this shakes out. But so at this point, I got to say, whoring yourself out for a guy who has no respect for you as a man, as a candidate for presidency of the United States. He's got no respect really for anyone who doesn't told his individual line. So sorry, Dr. Ben, but you, as far as I'm concerned, you've lost all credibility.